What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video on the channel. If you guys have not already, make sure to go down there and hit the subscribe button. This is going up on the second channel, so we're trying to pump out a bunch more content on here. Kind of just in the moment things, maybe some things that won't last too long in the future, but things I just want to get out during the moment. Something like this. The NBA play-in tournament's going to be happening the next few days, so want to be able to get this one out. And if you guys haven't, make sure to go subscribe down below. But if you guys are not familiar with the NBA play-in tournament, basically a few years ago, the NBA decided that they wanted to have more teams have the opportunity to make the playoffs. So this means that the 7 and the 8 seed will be playing in the first game, and the winner of that will get the 7th seed in the playoffs locked in, and then the loser of that game will end up playing the winner of the 9 and the 10 matchup. So if that doesn't make sense, you guys will see. I'll explain it a little more as we go here. But starting off, we're going to start off in the West. The West has been insane this year. I mean, looking at the standings right now, all the teams pretty much 1 through 10 all have at least 10 wins over 500 right now, which is insane. The Warriors, the lowest seed going into this play-in tournament at 46 and 36. And then we look at a team like the Thunder, who are 11 games above the Warriors and 57 and 25. The Nuggets, 57 and 25. The Timberwolves, 56 and 26. So a very, very tight West this year. I mean, arguably the hardest that we've ever seen, and the Thunder, the youngest team in the NBA, come out on top. So we'll have to see what happens in the playoffs with them, but we're going to see who they're going to be taking on. But more specifically, starting off in this 7 and 8 matchup, we have the Pelicans and the Lakers. Now, these two teams have seen each other 4 times so far this year, with the Pelicans having a 1 and 3 record, the Lakers kind of taking them out throughout this whole entire season. The only game that the Pelicans did win, they won by 20. But besides that, I mean, the first time they met this season, the Lakers 133-89. After that, a 17-point win, and most recently, which just happened 2 days ago as of this recording, the Lakers winning that game and making it so these two teams would play in this round. And if the Lakers win this game, they will be locked into the 7th seed. I know some people have been talking online saying maybe the Lakers should try to lose this game, mostly just Lakers fans, but maybe they should try to lose this game and then they would avoid the Nuggets and then play the Thunder in the first round, but I don't think there's any reason to avoid this. I think the Lakers are a better team than the Pelicans right now. I know Brandon Ingram just came back from the injury, but I think the Lakers are playing better basketball right now. So I'm going to take the Lakers here in that game, and they're going to be locked into that 7th seed. Now, next up, we have the Kings and the Warriors in the West. Now, this is a matchup which we saw before in the playoffs, as we know, with Draymond Green stomping on Domantas Sabonis. So there's going to be a lot going on in this matchup. Interdivision rivals. I mean, looking at the Pacific right now, depending on what happens, as of today, as before this play-in starts, the Clippers, Suns, Lakers, Kings, and Warriors all have the chance to make the playoffs, with the Clippers and the Suns being the only two teams completely locked in. But 3 out of these 4 teams in the play-in are from the Pacific Division, which is just insane. It shows how good that division has been this year. But the Warriors and the Kings have a lot of history against each other this season. They split the series. When we look at these games, they did play in January, their most recent game, where the Kings would get a 1-point victory. But before that, they got another 1-point victory. So we can see these last 3 games competed by these teams, 1-point game, which makes sense. I mean, we saw that playoff series last year, a close series. There was a lot of close games within there. It just depended on what would happen with De'Aaron Fox coming out, being the clutch player of the year last year. But this is going to be a very tough matchup for both sides. And I think the edge here, I'm going to give it to the Kings just because they're at home, and I do think that means a lot. I mean, looking at these games too, they beat Golden State at Golden State. They would lose at Golden State, though. So when we're looking at these games, they did split the series. When we're talking about record-wise, when we're talking about home and away games, it has been a very, very close series between these two teams. But I mean, they haven't played since the beginning of the season, really, so a lot has changed since then. But I think the Kings are just in this mode right now where they're starting to build their way back up, and if they can come in here and whoever wins this game goes on to play the Pelicans for that 8 seed going to play against the Thunder in the first round, it's going to be tough for the Thunder as a young team. But I do think the Kings are going to win this game. That may be a little bit of a hot take, but I think guys like Keon Ellis are going to come out. He's a very big player in this game overall, and I think the Kings are going to win that game. Now in the East, the Sixers and the Heat. When we look at this series so far this year, it's another 2-2 series, but these teams did play very recently, just about 2 weeks ago, and Philadelphia would come away with a win in that one, but a very close game. Philly has won those past 2 games, but if we look at all these games, 4-point game, 7-point game, 5-point game, 6-point game, I mean, these teams have some pretty good history against each other played on Christmas, but Embiid has been out for a little while when these two teams were playing, especially February and March, but he would come back. He has come back recently, and the Sixers have been playing at almost 100%. And I'm a Sixers fan, so I may be a little biased, but when we talk about this team, I mean, 30-7 when Embiid and Maxey play together. I think they have the number of Miami. I think it's going to be very hard to stop both of them. Tyrese Maxey has been on another planet recently, playing 50-plus minutes just about a week ago against the Spurs. He would not come out of the game, and it didn't even seem like he was tired after that, with 3 50-point performances this season from Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. The first time in NBA history we've seen teammates do that, so it's going to be very hard to stop them. But I think the Sixers are confident in this matchup, and I think they're going to come away with a win here. Next up, the Hawks and the Bulls. I think this one's a little bit easier. The Bulls are 2-1 versus the Hawks this season, and I know they did lose the most recent game just about 2 weeks ago in April, but when I look at this Hawks team, I'm just not very impressed. When we're looking at the East, you can see the difference in these play-in teams. I mean, when we talk about the Warriors, it's almost night and day. The Warriors, the 10th seed going into this play-in at 46-36. The Hawks, opposite, 36-46. They're competing for a playoff spot, 10 games under 500, which is just insane to think about, but I think that the Bulls come out here and they get an easy win almost. I mean, looking at these records, like I said, they did lose by 12 recently, but I think they're going to come out here and win the game. Trae Young is good, but he's one of those guys that I know he performed a few years ago in the playoffs, but I just don't really see them coming out on top in this game. Now, if we go on to the next matchup here, the second round of the play-in, this is going to be a winner-go-home game for the 8th seed in both the East and the West. In the West, a very interesting matchup here between the Kings and the Pelicans. The Pelicans, with Brandon Ingram coming back, especially after they lose in the first round, in my prediction, Brandon Ingram will have some more time to heal up and try to be 100% going into this game. This is going to be a very close game, in my opinion. The Pelicans are going to be the home team, so that may give them the home court advantage here. We'll see how much that really does for them, but both of these teams have been great all year. I do think it's the Pelicans' game to lose. The Kings going up against the Warriors, a very different matchup than the Pelicans. Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, they're going to be very aggressive going to the basket, and I don't really know who. I mean, Domantas Sabonis will be good, but I think Zion will have his way. I think Brandon Ingram will have his way. I'm going to go with the Pelicans here, and I think they're going to be able to come out with that one. And in the East, we have the Heat and the Bulls. I mean, looking at both of these teams, I don't think it's very close between these two teams. Like I said, the Bulls, 39-43, 4 games away from having a winning record. I think the Heat are a much better team, and I know it's a little bit of chalk, but also when we look at this, the Pelicans are the 7th seed going into this. I did predict that they would lose in the first round of the play-in, but no 7 seed has never made the playoffs going into the play-in, if that makes sense. No 7 seed going into it has not made the playoffs, and I know we only have a few years of history so far. We've only had 3 or 4 years of the play-in, but I do think it makes sense. I mean, if you're the 7 seed, you have 2 games to win, and you're going to be playing either the 9 or the 10 seed, which is a lot harder in the West this year. I mean, the Warriors have that experience. They could come out and win both games, and I wouldn't be surprised. The Kings, I think it's going to be relatively close against the Pelicans, but I do think Zion will have his way. In the East, I think it's a little bit easier. The Sixers and the Heat, I think, are just so much better than the Bulls and the Hawks. It's not really close there. But when we look at that, we're going to be going into the playoffs here. And with my predictions, we're going to be having the Pelicans and the Thunder going against each other in the first round, a very interesting matchup, and a rematch in the Eastern Conference Finals, the Celtics and the Heat. The Celtics are the best team in basketball by far right now. I don't think it's relatively close, but like we know, Jimmy Butler in the playoffs. We'll see if the Heat can pull something out there. And then in the 2 and the 7 matchup, the Lakers and the Nuggets, a rematch of the Western Conference Finals from last season where the Nuggets would sweep. I don't think this is the most favorable matchup if you're a Lakers fan. I think you may want OKC a little bit more. That's what I've heard online from people, but either way, I think it's going to be tough for the Lakers if you're a Lakers fan. And then in the East, as a Sixers fan, I think the Knicks right now, especially with Julius Randle out, I think the Sixers could go in and win that game, win that series, and then they go up against the Pacers or the Bucks, and Giannis is out right now. So as a Sixers fan, if they win this play-in game, I would feel pretty confident. I think this would be the best chance they have to go to the Eastern Conference Finals in a while. If you're a Lakers fan, it's going to be very tough going up against the Nuggets. If you're a Pelicans fan, there might be a little bit of optimism. The Thunder are a young team, so you just have to see how they perform in the playoffs with guys like Shea and Chet. And if you're a Heat fan, I mean, I think the Heat fans seem like one of the most confident fan bases in the NBA. I mean, give them any seed and they're going to compete in the playoffs. I don't really think this is going to be an easy sweep. I think the Heat are going to fight back, but I don't think there's anyone that's going to be able to beat the Celtics in the playoffs this year. I think it's their championship to win this year, which is, I mean, I'm a Sixers fan, so I hate to say that, but the Celtics are just too good this year. But like I said, I mean, the play-in, anything can happen. It's one game, and then you have another game after that. So 2 games for some teams, 1 game for some teams to get in, 1 game for some teams just to be completely out of the playoffs. So anything can happen. But let me know down below what you guys think about these predictions. Let me know who you guys have. And like I said before, if you haven't subscribed in the second channel, make sure to go down there, go below, and hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you guys in the next one.